No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, happy Thanksgiving, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Dave Manouk, I'm your host, Drew Mandel, here to talk about the juggernaut Winnipeg Jets 3-0 for the first time in 2.0 history as the Jets defeat the Minnesota Wild 2-1 this afternoon, this evening, tonight, whatever time frame you want to use. The Winnipeg Jets pull out the victory, taking it by that 2-1 margin, staying undefeated on this early part of the season by taking a victory away from their division rival. Dave Manouk, my good friend, it's been a whopping 8 hours since we were last together. Nice to see you again on this Sunday evening.
Yeah, good to be back, Drew. It's been a long time since we chatted. As Hamilton Davis saying, it's been a minute. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, look, it's a good day in Jets land. The Jets and Moose defeat their respective Wild foes.
Yes.
So the folks in who follow the NHL and AHL teams of Winnipeg are quite happy with the result. And like you said, Drew, I mean, it's the first time, and we discussed it on this morning's. It's weird to say that on a Sunday. This morning's Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Just the idea that this is it. This is the schedule that really does allow for this team to have that sort of opportunity to bank points.
Right.
And
make some hay while you can.
Exactly. And you were able to achieve that again. It was a bit of a low event game at points, but ultimately at the end of the day, you're 3-0. You now, as we talked about on the show this morning, have 4 days to work. Well, they won't be on the ice tomorrow, but starting Tuesday, you'll have a few days to work on it. And one of the things I noticed, and again, obviously, admittedly, a very small sample size, but their special teams are both almost, I think, top 5 in the NHL. And again, 3-4 games in for most teams, not a huge deal, but they're perfect on the penalty kill. Mm-hmm. Their power plays, I think, at around 40% or something of that nature, maybe a little bit less after today. But I just think maybe actually a little bit more today, actually, now based on the Kyle Connor goal. But I just think that it's one of those situations where you're liking certain things you're seeing. There's still some warts with this team, but so far the Lowry line has looked good. Mm-hmm. The Kupari line has looked good. The Scheifele line has looked, interesting, and we're still waiting to see something from that Nemestikov line a little bit more late in the game, but you still want to see a lot more from that line.
Yeah, you do want to see more from them, but if not all 2-1 games are evaluated equally. It's a second straight victory for the Jets by that 2-1 margin. Of course, they beat Chicago on Friday night 2-1 in overtime. They beat Minnesota tonight 2-1 in overtime, but this was a much more aesthetically pleasing effort from the Winnipeg Jets today against the Minnesota Wild. When there were lulls in their game, they were shorter in length than they were on Friday night against the Chicago Blackhawks. That game against Chicago was nothing to write home about, despite the final score being the same as tonight. I thought Winnipeg was clearly the better of the two teams on the ice tonight. Philip Gustafson played very well in net for the Minnesota Wild. You just look at the possession numbers. Just at a quick glance, the possession numbers, all 3 periods were pretty close to 60% versus to 40% in favor of the Jets. So, 3/5 of the possession to 2/5 of the possession for the Minnesota Wild. And it took until overtime, obviously, for the Jets to get the game-winning goal to seal the victory. But so much to like, I thought, about tonight's game from a Winnipeg Jets perspective. And when they made errors and there were some turnovers that were clear gaffes, I loved the defensive effort to get back and prevent those from becoming from getting past Connor Hellebuck. And any way you cut it now, the Jets have played 3 games this year, Dave, and they've given up 2 goals. I mean, so that's pretty damn good. That's a team that tells me that they still want to be in the Jennings conversation all season long. Who knows if they're going to end up there? But through 3 games, that defensive consciousness that was such a hallmark of Rick Bowness and his time as Winnipeg Jets head coach still seems to be there for the Jets.
Well, it's one of the things that Scott Arniel was asked about and talked about. He said, like, he talked to the players, and you don't want to throw away the fact that you had a 52 win season last year. And yes, they're moving forward, but they know the things that they did last year that made them successful. He admitted, of course, that didn't work in the playoffs because they didn't stick to the structure that they had tried to, create. And as a result, they got demolished by Colorado. But one of the things that we talked about throughout the course of this program is the idea that you've got a team that wants to maintain that structure. It's not going to be the most exciting hockey sometimes, but at the same time, you're seeing a better, I don't know, it's more impactful, I think, because you're getting the wins. So you're getting the reward for that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the Jets want. They want to get the victory when they're playing that way, when they're playing the proverbial right way, and that's what they did in tonight's game. By and large, they were a very impressive effort on home ice. I thought that they were playing against a Minnesota Wild team that really played hard, and this is a Minnesota Wild team that was certainly not at full strength. You have to consider that there was no Joel Eriksson Ek for the Minnesota Wild. There was no Jared Spurgeon for the Minnesota Wild. But nonetheless, both of these teams, there's no love lost for these teams. We know that. Right. These teams definitely don't have warm and fuzzy feelings for one another, even after an off season. So the Wild weren't going to roll over, and they weren't going to say, "Oh, woe is us." But the Jets were able to match that energy and still take the play to them. While at the same time, I thought that they played within the boundaries of their game. And when it continued to be a 1-1 game, when they continued to not be able to take the lead despite controlling the pace of the play, they didn't change their style. They didn't get away from what brought them success, which is, again, they know how they have to play to win. In previous years, as we've talked about, they would have opened things up. They would have started to take more chances. They wouldn't have had that defensive consciousness. Today, they had it, and then they eventually get rewarded with the overtime winner, which we'll get into when we get into the Play Now game recap. Of course, this is the Illegal Curve post-game show. It's brought to you by our friends at Play Now. Sign up for Play Now and get a casino welcome bonus up to $150. Play Now is Manitoba's local, legal, and secure gambling site and the official betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets. Conditions apply. 18 plus. Enjoy responsibly. Our thanks to our friends at Play Now. But that is, of course, to me, just a key hallmark of this Jets team is that they have to stay within that structure, and they continue to do so today.
Yeah, I think that's well said, Drew. And I think that it's exactly what we saw from the team. We'll hear from Scott Arniel when we go down to the Matt Frost Media Center. But I just think that there's it starts from the top. And this was, of course, my first game. I didn't go to the game on Friday, so I was in-house to watch the game. I really liked what I saw from that Adam Lowry line. Again, the captain really is setting that tone. And I feel like I'm going to be sticking with that cliche quite a bit throughout the course of this year, Drew, but that's, I guess, not a bad thing if he is doing that. Yeah. And I just thought that line was, really, really, really strong for the Winnipeg Jets. Yeah. And I thought that, the
72% Corsi 4. I mean, that's what they had. They had 3 high danger chances. They had 0 high danger chances against. Yeah. So, I mean, when you control 72% of the possession, right. Then you're doing something pretty damn good. And now it's the 3rd straight game where they have been absolutely one-sided as compared to their opponents when it comes to success on the ice. And that's just a matchup, and it's worth noting, by the way, that they actually played the 3rd most minutes at 5-on-5. The second line, and which I'm going to say is the Ehlers, the Mesnikov, Perfetti line, played 10 minutes at 5-on-5. Appleton, Lowry, Niederreiter played only 9:03 at 5-on-5 in tonight's game. Not only, but just pointing that out there. Yeah. But again, when Scott Arniel basically knows, at least through 3 games, and he's probably got some confidence that it's going to continue, that he can send out that Lowry, Appleton, Niederreiter line and the Iafallo, Kupari, and Barron line, and that they're going to win their minutes and that the ice is going to tilt in the Jets' favor, that's a pretty good feeling for a head coach to be able to go have.
Look, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I thought, again, like this team is playing that disciplined style. And I think, people, we sometimes get, we take for granted something that we know. Familiarity breeds contempt, right? And I think that when there were not a lot of changes, people kind of got, upset with what they were seeing. And I saw it in the chat earlier, but this is 11 straight regular season wins for the Winnipeg Jets, of course, because, they want 8 to end the playoff before the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
And again, you don't get lauded for having the best regular season. Of course, nobody remembers, who the President's Trophy winner is year after year. You have to generally look that up. You don't remember the really good regular season teams. Everybody, it's what have you done for us lately? And what have you done for us lately is get knocked out in the first round. But I think, Drew, that saying to that structure, and look, they need to create more 5-on-5. I don't think there's any question about that there's more that this team has to give in that regard. And again, we talked about it. I think that's the Perfetti, and I'm not saying Scheifele's line doesn't as well, but the Perfetti line, definitely needs to be more in the offensive zone because that's where they are. That's their strength.
They're still not clicking as well as the Jets would want them to, and as well as they would want to, and they'd be the first to admit that. So that you're right, that line is still not going great. And let's be honest, I don't think that the Scheifele Connor Velarde line was anything outstanding in tonight's game either. They were actually out in terms of high danger chances. They didn't have any at 5-on-5, and they had 5 against. This all according to our friends at Natural Stat Trick. So, the top, 2 scoring lines, offensive threat lines for the Winnipeg Jets, again, weren't anything fantastic in tonight's game. But I thought that they were still better than they were on Friday, and that they were still able to get the 2 points. And it's not 2 points that you have to hold your nose and to feel as though you're stealing the 2 points. The Jets were the better of the 2 teams in tonight's game. They were rewarded for that by staying within their play, by staying within how they want to be successful. This wasn't, Connor Hellebuck stealing the game for them.
Nope.
He played well, certainly. But, I thought that they just, stayed within. This is sort of how they want to play. Not every game is going to be 6-0 like you saw against the Edmonton Oilers,
right?
But there's still a fair bit that you're going to like regarding tonight's performance by the Winnipeg Jets. And whatever negatives they were, you think about it. There's 2 players on the Winnipeg Jets that were less than 50% Corsi in today's game. Those 2 players were Josh Morrissey and Dylan DeMello, and yet the Jets still came out with a victory. So the fact that they were able to get the victory even without having DeMello and Morrissey be as impactful and as effective as they normally are, I think speaks to the performance of everybody else on the team, and also speaks to the fact that when the top guns or your top D pair isn't necessarily performing at its peak, there's still a lot there that the Jets can rely on to shift the ice and change the tone of the game, namely the Lowry and Kupari line so far this year.
Well, and I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but the penalty could have been inopportune for Rasmus Kupari and mar what he's been able to do, because it was just unfortunate. It was a little casual, of course, with the hockey stick.
With the stick.
Yeah, Poppy was a little sloppy, although I'm sure no Jets fans were upset that it was Hartman who looked like he got shot. I was looking for a second shooter, for God's sakes, the way his head back into the front, like the way he snapped back. But again, we talk about wanting, Morgan Barron wants more, and that's not a bad thing. These guys are going to earn more and earn their coach's trust if they continue to do the right things and if they continue to create opportunities for themselves and their teammates. And there were, like you said, Drew, definitely, I can't think of like anything that stands out that there was like, wow, this is like, there were a couple plays by Barron that I thought were good. But like I said, from a fourth line, if you can be if the numbers look that way for your team, you're going to get more ice time, and balance is probably a really good thing for this Jets club. Like I said, you're going to need more production from everyone, but right now they're picking up the wins. That's 3-0, 6 points in the bank, And like I said, it's a good start. Are there things to work on? Absolutely. I think this is a perfect team? No. But like I said, you are definitely the two things to me, and I mentioned this, I think, in one of the segments we had this morning. Connor Hellebuck's play, no question about that. That to me is a standout in through three games, but also that the special teams look good. And obviously a 4-on-3 is good for a Jets team that's as talented as they are, but the fact that the PK has been excellent, the fact that the power play has been good, those are very good things for the Jets. And even when they didn't score, I thought they actually looked dangerous and they created some good chances.
Yeah, I don't think we can really delve deep into the post-game show without talking about Neil Pionk and Dylan Sandberg, because they were certainly a focus of the training camp and a focus of everybody saying, how are they going to perform as a second pair? I thought they were great in tonight's game. I thought Neil Pionk, and you hope that it continues, and who knows if it will or if it won't. But I thought Neil Pionk was absolutely terrific in tonight's game. If you look at his possession numbers, 72%, Corsi 4, Dylan Sandberg 65%. I thought those guys ate their minutes, and they just have a sort of a calm, cool collectiveness about how they've been playing as of late. And if they can solidify that second pair for the Winnipeg Jets, and if Pionk can avoid the troubles that he sort of found himself the last couple of years, where his game is just more chaos than it is controlled, then that's going to go a long way for the Winnipeg Jets to be successful as well. So I just did want to make mention that I thought Pionk and Dylan Sandberg were terrific tonight as the Jets' second pair, Dave.
Yeah, no, and it's one of the things. Well, that's one of the keys to the season that we discussed before they had even played one game. Was how was that second pairing going to look? Was Dylan Sandberg going to be able to handle second pairing minutes? What were the final minutes for Sandberg today, Drew?
Well, Sandberg played 18-16 at 5-on-5, and he played 22-31 altogether.
Yeah.
For 22 and a half minutes.
That's another game that's 7 minutes higher than his average from the last 3 seasons, where he's averaged thereabouts around 15 minutes per game. And Neil Pionk was the other kind of factor. Would Neil Pionk be able to rebound?
21-26 for Neil Pionk in tonight's game.
Yeah, and I thought he looked good. I thought that he did a lot of things. He was noticeable in a good way, not in a bad way. And that's, we always say,
I would say that's and maybe even 3 if you go back to Edmonton.
For sure. And I just think that sometimes it's easy to find a whipping boy, and then that person just stays as the whipping boy, like us with you, Drew.
Naturally.
But in this instance, I think that it's, like I said, Jets fans aren't going to be upset if Neil Pionk can rebound and get back to something. And look, there's a comfort level, right? Not that they played at Duluth together or anything like that, because they didn't. But he and Sandberg obviously have a lot of comfort training together in the summers back home in Duluth. And they have they've grown up together and their families have been friends. So I think there is something to be said for that connectivity, because it sure seems to be through 3 games looking pretty good for that second pairing.
We understand Scott Arneal is set to come to the podium. Here he is.
Scott, it didn't take you very long as head coach to draw up a play we haven't really seen before. What went into that late first period goalie pull?
You know what? It's actually something we've done for the last 2 years. We just hadn't executed it quite like that. As coaches, we've all done it. We've had a player stand on the face-off dot, start a clock, take a slap shot, get your hardest guy to shoot a slapper, see if it goes in the other net. It's right around 4 seconds, 3 point something. So usually anything above, we kind of stay away because we don't want it to go the other way. So at the end of the day, something Bones we had done it. I've done it in lots of different places, and you know what? It was the perfect. Lau won that, real quick, and then we had a good screen at the net, and Scheif got it off quick.
So I guess you got a couple of lefty shooting options in Miller, and was it Morrissey on the other side? And was it always going to go to Scheifele though, because he's the right-hander there?
He's the closest. It depends. I mean, if the guy gets out in his face, it's actually Miller being a righty. If it comes out, then he can send it. He can send it over, but you're still playing with 2.5 seconds. So the idea is to jam so that he does get that shot off.
Also want to ask you about the PK, another strong night, and especially the last one where there's, the game's kind of on the line there.
Yeah, no, we know what our power play's done and our 6-on-5 have done, and you know what, we needed them tonight. That power play is extremely dangerous. Zuccarello, the plays that he makes with with those guys, it's dangerous. And I thought, like you said, I think it was 10 minutes left in that period, and they came up big, gave us an opportunity to kind of stay in that. They haven't got a lot of reps. Our PK hasn't got a lot, but I really like the fact that we were the last one. We really didn't let them get in. We kind of stalled it a lot at the blue line, which is something we had talked about. Improving how we defended on the rush coming into our zone.
Yeah, I think maybe Samberg gets 2 of those in that first minute of that last PK. What goes into making the right reads and making sure that's nice and clean?
It's a little bit. I mean, without giving away too much, there's some stabs that we're trying to do there. There's timing. It's pre-scouting what the opposition has a tendency to do, and it's kind of stabbing as that guy gets close. Because the thing is that he has to make a decision because he's going to put everybody offside if he waits too long. And so there's a little bit of timing, and Dean's done a great job of kind of getting those guys when it's time to stab and kind of when to react to if they does get kicked out to the wide lane, and then the pressure comes on from there.
Scott, small sample, obviously, what's it like to be part of the first 3-0 start in franchise history here?
Yeah.
Sorry, we gotta look at the numbers here.
Actually, Brownie told me that one. So, but no, I know it's awesome. No, it's great. I didn't know that, and so it's great to hear. We'll move on. Hopefully, it's 4.
Sure, fair enough.
Now that Brownie brought it up.
What's it like to see, or how would you describe Mark Scheifele's start to the season?
You know what? Veteran guy, gave me 800, hitting 300 the other night in goals. He's feeling real confident. He's just playing at elite level, and when your best players can be your best players, and that's not just him. There's a lot of guys that are playing at a high level right now, and that's good because it's gotten us out of the gate here. You don't know how the season's ever going to start, and as a head coach, I'm happy that the best players are up and running, and it just helps us to have success.
What did you see from Kyle Connor tonight? 8 shots on goal,
Yeah.
kind of all over the ice. Is that just a classic Kyle Connor game in your mind?
Yeah, he's a shot volume guy, and then you saw it at the end. Not many guys can stand still and whip that like he does, and to score that goal. But he's a guy that shoots from all angles, all places. He did it the other night, actually. He had a bunch that kind of couple off the mask. I think he threw a couple off the shoulder. His release is so good that you want him to do that. You don't want him to not take his shots. And when he's on, he's finding holes, he's finding places on the ice so he can get that shot away.
What is it about Scheifele that really amplifies Connor's game in those situations?
Well, there's a chemistry there. They've played together. I think him being a right-handed centerman, if it's on the rush, Casey he's got quickness. He's got good burst. He'll find him. Scheif's pretty good at passing and find him when it comes in the offensive zone. Casey does a great job of hiding and kind of darting in and darting out. Gabe kind of distracts people because he's around the front of the net, and if you leave him alone, then he has his plays that he makes. But Casey does a great job of not staying in one spot. He's always on the move, and Scheif finds a way to find him.
Scott, last year, this team's identity clearly was its defensive acumen, and you win the Jennings. Just the 2 goals against now in 3 games, and Connor Hellebuck would probably tell us that he would like both of those back. He always seems to say that when he lets. But that's obviously something your group has not abandoned whatsoever, even if you've fallen behind in these last 2 games, haven't kind of opened it up. So I imagine of the many things you're liking about your club, sticking to that identity is up there.
Yeah, and right from day one of training camp, we weren't going to get away from that. That has become our identity. It's something that anybody that was here 2 years ago, it's what we tried to ingrain in them. That's how you win in this league, and you start there, and then all the other things have to come into play too. But if you can't defend, you're going to make for long nights. Being a coach, I can also say that we did give up some chances that I didn't like, that were kind of rush chances, a little what we did the other night against Chicago. We'll kind of work on that this week. But all in all, if you're, as a group, each unit goes out and tries to stymie the opposition, all it does is leads to ozone time, and that's the biggest thing for me. Again, that's 2 nights in a row where we spend a lot of time in the opposition end, kind of wearing them down. It's like one line after another, and that just frustrates the opposition. And I'd like to see some of them go in so that maybe we're up 5-0 after the first instead of down 1. But at the end of the day, we're building, and I like what we're doing.
What does a team need to have or need to do, or the mindset it needs to have to be the kind of team like yours that last year and already early on this year kind of is able to push it right to that last bell and be like at their best at the most crucial time?
Yeah, I mean, we're not playing it that way. Sometimes the other goalie has something to do with that, but at the end of the day, we're not out of it. You know, we have enough weapons. We feel that we can score goals. We stay in games. If teams want to sit back on a lead, we're going to pressure. We're going to keep coming after you, and hopefully, I mean, we've been fortunate. We obviously the last two, we've got chances. To score like we did the other night, 6-on-5. Tonight we drew the penalty. So at the end of the day, it's just sticking with your plan, not getting away from it, and all of a sudden deciding that because you're down a goal or two that you're going to change how you play. I mean, like we just talked about, our defense gives us the puck all the time, and whether that's how hard we pressure in the offensive zone through the neutral zone, obviously in our D zone, that's what gives us the puck back, and that allows us to go and attack. And when we're on the attack, I think we're one of the best teams at it.
So it's probably building on that point, but since you've been here, how have you seen this team's growth when it comes to its comfort level in these tight, grinded-out games?
Well, yeah, that's kind of the learning curve, that if you're going to play the way we play, that's the growth that has happened, and it's buy-in. The biggest thing I think that probably can throw at all the guys that are big minute guys is the buy-in that we're getting from those guys, and whether that's defensemen, whether that's forwards, they know that, okay, what is my recipe to have the puck in my stick more often, and they're buying into that, and that's how it's happening. We're having success with it.
Last one, yeah, and just going, two. Just going back to Mike's question about like the start, the buy-in and all that. Like I was talking to Kyle Connor yesterday, and it's been there from the get-go this year. Is that different than it was the last couple of years? You didn't have to find it. Like it doesn't seem like you have had to kind of find that foundation.
Yeah, we had to do a lot of teaching in the last couple of years, and a lot of repetitious things so it became ingrained. And when we came to camp this year and we started talking, and we've had a couple of, let the players talk, let the veterans talk. I've had, our leadership group in the room. It's KC, it's Scheif, it's JMO. The other guys are talking about how we're defending, how good we are without the puck. That gets them the puck back to be able to play. I mean, Adam Lowry takes a ton of pride in how he goes and plays without the puck every night. Doesn't matter, what's going on. But they're the ones that realize that there's a recipe there. Florida doesn't go. They go 2 years ago from just barely squeaking to get in. Last year, they're one of the best teams in the league defending. They're right there with us all year long. So there's a recipe that's there. The rest of the league sees that. Vegas a couple years ago, same thing. They're very stingy. They make it hard on you. That's what playoff. I don't want to really talk about playoffs, but that's what playoff hockey is. And it's hard to learn in January, February, or March how to play that way if you're not doing it all year long.
Yeah, and there's a shift. I think it was early in the third period, the Nemetsov line. It was good. It was direct. It was puck cycle down low. A little bit of a grinding shift for them. It looked good for them. Is that what you're looking for?
I thought they played faster tonight as a group. I thought they, there was lots of situations where they attacked that the lanes were filled coming through the neutral zone. But you're right, there was some building there. We met yesterday. Those guys are taking full ownership on where they're at, but we're 3 games into it, and I think that they're still growing amongst each other. And it'll hopefully the biggest thing is they just need to get rewarded. They need to get one. And Fetz had a great tip there in the third. I thought maybe that would be the one that might boost it, but just keep doing what they're doing, and hopefully they'll get the results. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
There he goes, Winnipeg Jets head coach Scott Arniel joining us this evening, courtesy of the Matt Frost Media Center and our fantastic photographer and videographer Colby Spence, bringing them to you on a regular basis.
He began as a photographer, but he's modified himself into a videographer, and we in the chat in this show are beneficiaries because we bring you something nobody else does, which is the Coach Live. So I always say it, but it's Bears, rather than waiting till game 82 to thank Colby, I'm going to thank him in game 3 because without him, we wouldn't have that. And it's such an extra benefit to this show and the analysis we do.
Absolutely. Let's get into the goal by goal recap. It's called the Play Now game recap here on the Illegal Curve post game show. Learn to bet with Play Now, the official betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets. Sign up and get up to $250 in bonus bets. Conditions apply, 18 plus. Enjoy responsibly. You knew you had a Minnesota Wild team coming in on the second half of a back-to-back, a banged up Minnesota Wild team. So what do the Wild need? They need an early goal, and they got it, and it was a stinker. Jacob Middleton, his first of the year, the proverbial seeing eye shot from the point, assist to Marco Rossi. No question that Connor Hellebuyck didn't pick it up until it was already past him, and no further question that it's not a goal that he typically lets in, and one that he would want back, as it was not the prettiest goal ever scored against him. 1-0 for the Minnesota Wild at the 4:06 mark.
But before you get into that goal, Drew, we
Yes.
should mention, because it's something I mentioned earlier, the idea of tone setting. And I thought Adam Lowry, did he ever set the tone against Matt Zuccarello, leveling him within 15 seconds of puck drop or whatever it was? But I really thought that was going to ignite the friendly Manitoba versus Minnesota nice, or Minnesota not so nice and not so friendly Manitoba battle. But like I said, it was just, I just like that kind of the way they did that, the way he started the game. And he just basically said, and it's interesting because it's ironic actually, because Middleton went up to him because he was on for that shift, and it looked like he was going to try and drop the gloves. Then shortly thereafter, he scores the goal. So good for him that he didn't. But I just like the fact that Lowry went, and just one of those things you talk about when you have a captain like 17, that's what he does, right? And he got some chances to score, which we'll talk about later. But I just like the fact that he went out against a division rival, against a team that's, as he mentioned on the show this morning, lost the game against the Seattle Kraken, a game that they had the lead on, and they end up losing that game. Yeah, exactly. And they end up losing that game in a shootout. So he went out there and he said, okay, I'm going to show you're not going to come in here. We're going to try and make it 5 straight games that the Jets in the regular season have defeated the Wild. Because as you said, Drew, on the show, they won all 4 contests last season. And so, yes, but now fast forwarding a little bit, first of all, the other thing we should mention also is Nemestikov gets clipped. Yes. I think that was before the goal. And was it not? I think it was, because it was fairly early on where Nemestikov gets clipped as he's skating through the neutral zone, and he went down. He was on the bench for a little bit. Then he eventually got back on. So the disaster averted in the sense of injury for the center of the number 2 line, whatever you want to call it. Tonight, I guess it was the number 2 line, Drew, based on 5-on-5.
Right.
But we're not
going to just say Lowry or say say Nemesnikov. Otherwise, it's going to be impossible.
No, I know, of course. But anyway, so the point is that, those 2 things kind of happened. I thought they were notable for sure. And then, yeah, you're right, Drew. Then you look at what happens with that Middleton goal. It's just unfortunate. The Jets had some good pressure just before that. And then, of course, the Wild, a seeing eye shot against Connor Hellebuyck, it goes in. Is it the end of the world? Probably not. Is it one that they could have defended a little bit better? Probably, because they had a little bit too much time and there was not any pressure, at the blue line, and Ross was able to get it to Middleton. So, but again, it's not a goal that goes in very often. So it's hard to guard against it because it's just kind of a fluke at that point.
It is certainly a fluke, and it seemed like it was going to be a 1-0 Minnesota lead after 20 minutes. I'll be honest with you, Dave. When they were going for that face-off, I flipped to see what was going on in one of the NFL games, and then I glanced at my phone at the same time. I'm like, what the hell just happened? Did I have an outer body experience? How did they score? There was half a second left on the clock, but apparently that was all the time the Jets needed with 2 seconds to go. Just a terrific play, a terrific set play. They pulled Connor Hellebuyck to get the extra skater on the ice, and it couldn't have worked better. Designed to an absolute T. Lowry to Scheifele to the back of the net. Just an absolute howitzer from Mark Scheifele, and an absolutely clean face-off win from the Winnipeg Jets captain in Adam Lowry. And it appeared as though they were going to be down 1-0 heading into the second period. Instead, it's 1-1 after 20 minutes.
I agree with you, and that was the scuttlebutt in the I'll be honest, Drew. I was already writing the tweet for people to come, okay, the Jets are finding themselves down 1-0, blah, blah, blah. Join us on the Illegal Curve post-game show. But of course, I'm watching the play and it goes in. I'm like, you're just kind of sitting there because I looked at Mike McIntyre, who it's just to the left of us. And I was like, when was the last time we've ever seen that for the Jets? We've seen it against the Jets, but how often do you ever see? In fact, I don't even remember seeing it against the Jets. I'm sure it's happened. I feel like San Jose once did that many, many years ago, but it could have just been. It could have been like
they scored a game winner against the Jets with a second to go,
right,
in the third period.
But I don't think it was. It wasn't a 6-on-5. It was just a last second goal. Yeah. But I don't remember. And correct, maybe the chat can jump in if they can remember. But I couldn't remember a goal like that, a 6-on-5 goal, pulling the goaltender.
No.
And
it almost never works. It's one of those things that is probably, it seems like it's cute to try, but I mean, everything has to work so perfectly for that to be successful. Yeah. I mean, that's the part that's so surprising.
No, you're absolutely right, Drew. I mean, you need to have the clean face-off win the way, Adam Lowry did. You have to have the, Mark Scheifele getting it off as quickly as he did. And then, got to give, it's unfortunate for Gustafsson because he had played a pretty good game, right? And then of course he continued to play a good game, made a number of really nice saves against the Winnipeg Jets to keep it a tie game. But in that instance, it's just a little bit of I guess it depends on the team you cheer for, but it's unfortunate luck for them. But like I said, I just like the fact that the Jets are aggressive because, as you said, Drew, like how many times have we seen that where it doesn't work? So when you actually see it and it does work, well, it's impressive because the other thing with also worth mentioning is that the Wild have that area the clogged up. Like Scheifele has almost no time to get that shot off.
And he has to get it up so quickly because, I mean, you're right. It was a clean face-off win, but I didn't think that the Wild defensive coverage was atrocious on the play or anything. It's just an absolute, sometimes, when a defensive back has coverage on a wide receiver and he's got blanket coverage, sometimes the quarterback can still drop it in there and there's nothing the defensive back can do. There was nothing the Wild could do here. It was a perfect shot by Mark Scheifele. And Gustafsson and the Wild defenders just had no defense against it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Adam Lowry, versus Matt Boldy. I mean, there's a bit of a disparity probably there in terms of face-off, proficiency. And like I said, Hartman tries, doesn't. I mean, he didn't have the best kind of attack on Mark Scheifele. The only issue is they parted a little bit like the Red Seas a little in that regard. I'll be honest with you, Drew. I forgot Zach Bogosian was even on this team until late I think it was the first period, but you got to credit them. It's an aggressive play. It's a play, as you touched on, that works very infrequently, but when it does work, it's an exciting opportunity for them because look, it was a 1-0 game. It wouldn't have been the end of the world if you go into the first intermission down, 1-0 to the Minnesota Wild.
Right.
But it galvanized the building, got people talking, and created a lot of excitement. And the other thing we should mention, because it happened in the first period, Mark Scheifele is recognized for playing in his 800th NHL game. And of course, recognized for scoring in his 300th goal, which he did in the last 299 and 300. Now he's got 301, but just, remarkable to think, I think it was October 22nd, 2011, when he played his first game, which was against the Montreal Canadiens, if I recall correctly. And now 799 games later, plays game number 800. So an impressive career already for the number 55. And of course, 7 more years of that here in Winnipeg. But it was a really impressive play. One, as I said, and I don't know, I haven't been able to read the chat, but I don't know if anybody else has seen it here in Winnipeg, at least with this 2.0 team.
It's so impressive that it gets recognized as our Seagram shot of the game.
The Seagram shot of the game.
Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Seagram's 83, Manitoba's favorite Canadian whiskey. If you're imbibing, imbibe safely. Maybe you're having a drink with you're celebrating Thanksgiving with the family, either today or tomorrow. We recommend the full suite of Seagram's products. Big thanks to Seagram's for their continued support. 1-1 at after 20 minutes. No goal scoring for the next 40 minutes of regulation. Chances on both ends. Both goalies came up big. None that I would describe as grade A
Well,
superstar saves. I mean, there were a couple nice
the Lowry
saves.
one, the Niederreiter pass to Lowry was pretty impressive.
Sure. Yes, that was a pretty nice
And that was
save.
a nice. We were talking about it again, like I said, upstairs, and we couldn't determine if it was a blocker save or if he made it the save with his pad. Regardless, it was a nice save by Gustafsson because it was very reactionary. Because Lowry's, it was a really nice shift by that line, and then Lowry, puts himself into a good position, which I thought he did throughout the course of this hockey game. But he was in good position, and Niederreiter finds him again. That's that chemistry, that long-standing chemistry that trio has developed. And he would have been rewarded normally, but Gustafsson made a great save.
Yes, he did. And so that's where there was after regulation. The Jets successfully killed off a late Rasmus Kupari penalty. We touched about that earlier on. But the penalty kill for the Winnipeg Jets, really impressive again in tonight's contest. Perfect on the season so far. And, anytime you can kill a penalty late in the game with, 5 minutes to go and not give up a shot on that penalty kill, they really buckled down. They really, had a great blue line where the Wild were not really able to penetrate it. And that certainly, I think, was a bit of a boost for the Winnipeg Jets towards the end of the game. And then Zach Bogosian takes that holding the stick penalty, really. And if he doesn't take that penalty, the Jets probably win in regulation because Scheifele was going to be all alone on the doorstep. Instead, Bogosian takes that holding the stick penalty with less than 10 seconds to go in regulation. And the game gets sent to overtime, where the Jets almost blow it. I mean, let's be honest. It was a bad play by Mark Scheifele in overtime that almost leaves the Wild with a scoring opportunity, but you love the back check. There was a play by Scheifele and a play by Morrissey in today's game where they had turnovers in the offensive zone, and they were able to come back and clean up their own mistakes, Dave, to prevent those turnovers from becoming a scoring chance against. I remember the Morrissey one against Kirill Kaprizov, and that's not the player you want to make a mistake against, Kaprizov, given how dangerous he is. And Scheifele, in this instance, in overtime as well, was able to rectify his mistake.
Yeah, and before we get into that, Drew, that it's probably worth mentioning. Did you notice Kirill Kaprizov? Like, there were a couple of instances where I thought
you hear his name, but he wasn't as impactful on a game as he has been in past. And that's 3 players now. Think about it, 4 players that are pretty good names. Bedard on Friday night wasn't terribly impactful. Kaprizov tonight, not terribly impactful. And McDavid and Draisaitl back on Wednesday night, not terribly impactful. So the Jets, as of late, have done a pretty good job shutting down the opponent's biggest weapons.
Well, and that's kind of the point I was, trying to make, was just that they've done a very good job of really minimizing what these guys do. So sometimes when folks are like, they're not creating enough, true, but they're also removing the impact. And, that kind of touches on what you said, right, Drew? The idea that they're looking to replicate their Jennings Trophy victory from last year. And so far, 2 goals through 3 games, that's looking pretty good. But now getting back to the point you were touching on earlier before I sidetracked us, which is the fact that, you're right. Absolutely. Mark Scheifele is in. It was a good shift by that line. And I liked that they continued. They didn't play for overtime, because how many times have we watched a game where like, well, this is clear. That's just both teams are just going to play for overtime.
Right.
And you like the fact that they were trying to win it in regulation. They went for it. And yeah, if Bogosian doesn't, I said haul down, but he basically grabbed the stick. If he doesn't do that, it's likely, a tap in for Mark Scheifele because of where the puck ended up and where he had positioned himself. So even though they don't score on that play, a smart play by 55 draws the penalty. And, going into overtime, you like the Jets' chances anyways in overtime with the weapons that they have, but you especially like them when they have the man advantage.
Exactly right. And they get the game winner in overtime. Kyle Connor, his second of the year, assist to Scheifele, assist to Morrissey. I'll be honest, when Connor didn't fire it immediately upon getting pass from Scheifele. I thought that was a golden one-timer opportunity. And then when he didn't release it immediately and then he shot, I thought, oh no, that's not the opportunity. I thought that Gustafsson was in good position. But again, almost the carbon copy of the Scheifele goal. The shot is just better than the goaltending in that case. There was not a big window for Kyle Connor to shoot at even after that pause, and somehow he managed to pick it on Philip Gustafsson, giving the Jets the 2-1 victory in overtime. I mean, Kyle Connor, for all his warts defensively, is still an elite goal scorer in this league.
There's a reason why Kyle Connor has 53 game-winning goals, leading the Winnipeg Jets 2.0 in that category, and 1.0 for that matter. In that category, his shot is lethal. His shot has been lethal since his University of Michigan days. Probably his he played for he played for the Phantoms, or no? Who did he play for in the USHL?
Oh, Dave, you're asking me difficult.
I want to say it was like
right
I feel like it was the Phantoms, but hold on, I'll do a quick see. This is where Ezzy would usually be helpful, because he could say he played for the Phantoms. Can the chat help me out on this one?
Youngstown Phantoms. Good job,
there we go.
Dave. Well
there
done.
we go. But the point is that he's had a shot that is unbelievable. And I was looking at it. He scored 53 game-winning goals for the Jets team. The next closest guy is Mark Scheifele at 49. But Mark Scheifele's played 800 games. Kyle Connor's played a grand total of 535 games after tonight. It's a lot less. But yet he's got more game-winning goals than anybody else in this organization. He's a phenomenal shooter. And to your point, Drew, you look at that and you think, well, why didn't you one-time it? But it's because his shot is so good that most guys can't beat a goaltender like that. But he's not most guys.
He is
and
not
so
most guys.
he is an elite. He is an elite shooter. We saw it on display in that opportunity. Ends the game, and of course, ends everybody happy.
And they went home happy in downtown Winnipeg to celebrate Thanksgiving with their friends, their family, their loved ones. The chat is having a debate about pies, so you know that everyone's in a good mood so far. The Jets victorious tonight, 2-1 over the Minnesota Wild. They improved to 3-0 so far early in the season. They take the next 4 days off from game action. They'll be skating, I'm sure, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. IllegalCurve.com will have all the latest news for you regarding the Winnipeg Jets. When we come back on the other side, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
I just want to add one more thing, because even though he didn't get any points, and I know that folks are saying, he's looking a little out of sorts, but I thought Gabe Vilardi, again, net front presence, creating something that Gustafsson has to be aware of, right? And he has to be ready for. And so there are a couple of instances where Vilardi is doing that. He's taking away the eyes. And he's right beside the side of the net. So he knows that if Connor hits him with that pass, it is a goal. And I just think that he's in the right spots. He's not getting rewarded for it yet, but it seems like, and I think it's been a bit of a slow start for him, obviously, but I just think that, he is like some of the other guys, still trying to find his way. But I just like some of the positions he put himself in to find that success.
There you go. Well said, Mr. Dave Manouk. When we come back on the other side of the break, a Manouk Moose Minute, and we'll wrap up tonight's post game from the downtown arena. The Jets win 3-0. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk with you. It's the Illegal Curve post game show. It rolls on, courtesy of our friends at Play Now.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Center. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Center. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
So you're a pizza person, you married a wing person, but somehow your kids are salad people. You can't pick your fam, but you can pick your BP meal deal, starting from $18.99 for takeout or delivery at bostonpizza.com.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk with you on a Sunday night. I think the conversation in the chat has moved from pies to cheesecakes. So you know that everyone's got their A game. They're really bringing their focus on this Sunday evening. They're nailing down the important matters that they need to discuss. Cheesecake pie. It is a Thanksgiving Day version or Thanksgiving weekend edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show after what was a special Sunday edition of the Illegal Curve hockey show earlier today. Big Jets win, as we talked about, 2-1 over the Minnesota Wild. That's now 2 straight games victorious against Central Division opponents. They did a great job against the Central Division last year, and the Jets hope to keep that going. And of course, 3-0 now against Western Conference opponents after their win on Wednesday against the Edmonton Oilers. It wasn't only the Winnipeg Jets that beat a team called the Wild today. It was also the Manitoba Moose who beat a team called the Iowa Wild. Dave M. has the Manouk Moose Minute.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Manouk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
It's gonna haunt my dreams.
I'm not gonna lie. There's still some more things I'm gonna do with it, but I couldn't hold myself back. I couldn't wait for the production to get, even though the Moose sent me that clip, I wanted to just get it out there and put it out there for you guys. So
I think we should be able to have like a whack-a-mole version of it, where it's just somebody comes with a giant oversized mallet and smack when you're popping up, we just pop you right back down.
No, what would be great is if I was standing there and all of a sudden a Moose player came and just hip checked me and just knocked me.
I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, I know you'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you, Spency. Appreciate it. Let's focus on the Manitoba Moose because they were in Iowa today in Des Moines looking for the weekend sweep, which we always know is not an easy thing to do. And in fact, something that this Moose team has never done to start a season is sweep the opening series of the AHL season. The only change they made was Dominic DiVincentis, the 2022 7th rounder, I believe, the OHL goalie of the year for North Bay, who, of course, is turning pro. We assumed, Drew, because we thought either Eric Comrie or Kaapo Kähkönen would be with the Moose. So we thought Dominic DiVincentis would get the Thomas Milic treatment, meaning he'd start with Norfolk and then potentially get back up. But for right now, he is going to be in a tandem with Thomas Milic, but he got the start. So he made his pro debut for those Manitoba Moose. Good game. And, to be honest with you, the perfect start because less than 5 minutes into the game, Brad Lambert, remember him? He passed over to Dominic Toninato, who got his second of the season. A beautiful little tap in. Real nice play by Lambert on a 2-on-1. That made it a 1-0 game for Manitoba. And then a little bit of a trial by fire for DiVincentis, who stopped 16 of 17 in the first period. So he was well tested as Iowa threw everything they had at him. Only were able to get one past him in the opening 20 minutes of play. He looked good. He looked calm. He looks big, boring, whatever you want to call it. But it was an impressive start for a guy who's 20 years old making his pro debut. So you weren't certain what you were going to get, but through 20 minutes you were impressed by what you saw. And then early category Moose goal of the year for 2022. I know Frosty's going to love this one, because even though it's only the second game for the Moose, it was a beautiful goal by 2022 third rounder Danny Zhilkin, who, of course, his season came to an untimely end last year when he had to have shoulder surgery, but he looks healthy. He looks fast, and he scored an absolute beauty. Perfect tandem pass by Simon Lundmark and Elias Salamonson, again, 2 Jets draft picks, who one touched it up, kind of whipped it up as he was, rounding up in the Moose zone, and he went through 2 wild defenders and then beats the goaltender to give the Moose a 2-1 lead. It was a short-lived 2-1 lead because 44 seconds later, the Moose gave up a goal to tie the game 2-2 through the second period. Again, DiVincentis, though, was very good, making 32 of 34 stops through 40 minutes of play. And then, sure enough, it's, a little bit of irony here. Mason Shaw, the former Iowa Wild, of course, drafted by the Minnesota Wild, so that he was the captain of the Iowa Wild. He signed here in the offseason, and he gets the game-winning goal with about 4.5 minutes to go in the hockey game. So he scores to make it a 3-2 game. The Moose would hold on for that 3-2 win, So that gives them the series sweep. And like I said, Dominic DiVincentis, fantastic. 37 saves on 39 shots to pick up his first pro win. And pretty cool, because if you haven't seen it, we've got it in the game recap. He did an interview with Daniel Fink after the game, and obviously he credits his teammates, but he talked about why he felt so calm in his pro debut. That was pretty neat. And one of the things he said in the interview was that his dad was able to make it to Des Moines to be able to see his pro debut. So that's pretty awesome, given we know how much family impacts these guys and how much families give for their kids in order to get to this level. So a really impressive pro debut, as we talked about with Marty Biron, who has a few NHL games experience.
Yeah,
a young tandem can work, and so far through 2 games, very early, but the Manitoba Moose are showing that a 21-year-old and a 20-year-old goaltender can lead the ship, as they are now 2-0 for the first time. I guess that's also interesting that they're also 2-0 for the first time since the 2.0 history. So a weekend of history for the NHL and AHL organizations in Manitoba.
We got a 1-2-0 team, 1-3-0 team, a perfect weekend of victories for the True North teams. The Jets defeating the Minnesota Wild 2-1, and of course the Moose defeating the Iowa Wild 3-2. That does it for us on this edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Big thank you to all of our sponsors, our friends at Play Now, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Holt Dental, City Place, Boston Pizza, and of course Seagram's. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. The entire post-game recap is available on illegalcurve.com. That'll of course be your destination from now until Friday, as well as our YouTube channel for everything to do with the Winnipeg Jets. A great weekend all around. Happy Thanksgiving to one and all. Thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks for joining us tonight. For Dave Manouk, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Until Friday at around 9:40 p.m., we wish you good night and good luck, and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.